You've heard it said, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Whilst accepting that the journey is the thing, the destination is still needed to make the journey possible. Or in my case today, destinations. Hello and welcome to the ride. Here I am in the beautiful Wye Valley of Herefordshire, leaving busy roads behind to enjoy pottering along quiet lanes just north of Ross-on-Wye, and it's a series of Wye Valley churches that give shape to my journey, taking me off the beaten track. And the River Wye itself, it'll be the presence that's felt but rarely seen. First up is the church at Foy. Held within a bend of the River Wye, Foy is on a peninsula near the end of a lane that must be retraced to leave the village once visited. Unusually, this church is aligned from northeast to southwest, possibly due to the topography and the course of the river to which it stands parallel. An ideal spot to rest and enjoy the views over the river that can't be seen to the farmland of Hill of Eton opposite. An ancient yew tree with a seat from which to enjoy the view. One John Abrahall left money to rebuild the east wall. He left clearly detailed instructions that the window should be like that at nearby Sellack. Abrahall's initials and the date 1673 above the window. The window from the inside, a copy of Sellack's. That's on the itinerary for later. I'm now retracing my route back from Foy, heading west to my next destination along the Wye Valley, which is, in fact, Sellack. Leaving the lane to join a lesser lane towards the next destination point, which has brought me to this beautiful countryside. Dropping down the valley side towards the Wye's floodplain, bathed in sunshine below. And there's Sellack and its quiet, secluded church at the end of a lane, set in an idyllic position in meadows close to the River Wye, with period cottages close by. A distinctive slim tower. A peaceful place to pause in a busy world for quiet contemplation. The present building is some 800 years old and almost certainly replaced an earlier wooden building. The first recorded priest here is John Le Helne in 1291, but the church had certainly been in existence long before this. How many generations have passed through this door? The unusual layout is a surprising feature of this building. The east window, copied at Foy. The story goes that Cromwell's men were sent to destroy it in a bid to eradicate idolatry, but were wined and dined at the local manor house and rather lost sight of their mission, simply firing a token shot through the window before leaving. Is that broken pane the place where a repair was effected? As I slowly climb the valley side out of Sellack, I can't help but be amazed at how so small a settlement could have afforded such a relatively large and interesting church, tucked away down this lane as it is. Countryside depopulation is amply demonstrated here. Well, back at the top of the valley side, here the sun shines. I leave the lane to join a marginally larger lane, to follow the Wye Valley towards my next destination point, Hoarwithy. And down the valley side again, through old holloways. Chugging along, but you never know what's around the next corner on a country lane. Here we go again. And there's more. All the country lane hazards. The next destination point, Hoarwithy. Wow, an Italianate church dropped upon a small Herefordshire village. This is not what you expect to find on the lanes of Herefordshire. A church seemingly plucked from southern Italy and plopped down beside the Wye. A colonnaded entranceway. Just look at the carving on the pillars to the left. Framed, glorious views of the Herefordshire countryside. In 1874, William Poole the vicar asked architect John Pollard Seddon to replace the old brick chapel with a much grander one. He certainly went to town on the project. No Victorian Gothic here, this is the architecture of the Byzantine Empire. After the Italianate bell tower and colonnade, there's an interior to match, leading the eye to the east, with its golden mosaic of Christ in glory. I leave Hoarwithy, its dwellings clinging to the hillside on the left, away from the winter waters of the Wye's floodplain on the right. Down a delightful holloway. The views open up upon the hamlet of Carey. I passed through Ballingham, or is it Ballingham, a village named in the Domesday Book. Another peninsular village like Foy on rising land within a bend in the River Wye. Sitting enclosed on three sides, Ballingham is a remote place. There's the church marker point that's brought me here, even if I don't stop to take a look inside. Dropping down Ballingham Hill to skirt the western edge of the river. Believe me, it is down there on the right. Following contours, the lane levels out, but there's no floodplain at this point, the land rising steeply from the river's edge. I pass under the dismantled Ross-on-Wye and Hereford line, closed in 1965, a beautiful piece of Victorian stonemasonry. Next destination point, Holme Lacy Church. The village of Holme Lacy is straight ahead, but I'm turning off onto the Wye's floodplain, passing under our old friend again, the dismantled Ross-on-Wye and Hereford line. A long, lonely lane over the level floodplain, miles from the village, miles from any village. The destination makes the journey, and the journey is the thing. No way would I have been motorcycling here without today's destination points to follow. The view opens out to reveal a house named High Trees on the right, and Holme Lacy's church here on the left. The reason for the church's location is a bit of a mystery. Holme Lacy village is miles away, back up the winding lane. The original village must have been around the church, but presumably moved because of flood risk, perhaps. Or perhaps when Holme Lacy House was rebuilt in the 17th century, again way back up the lane. Whatever the reason, the church now seems like a forgotten relic, with only High Trees, the former vicarage, for company. The fabric of the present church originates from the 13th century. Most compelling inside are the striking Scudamore family tombs from centuries back. Far too many to include in a video here. But I discovered my favourite outside, hidden at the back of the church. Memorial to Edwin Scudamore Stanhope, who died in 1933, pictured as a heroic knight in armour. A Wagnerian knight, gazing through these amazing gates towards the east, across the River Wye. Now to retrace the long and winding lane once more. eventually reaching the village of Holme, Lacy, miles from its original location around the church, on the B4399, where again I crossed the dismantled Ross-on-Wye and Hereford line, this time over this bridge. Still on the B4399, and at last a glimpse of the elusive River Wye before joining the B4224 towards Mordiford. Mordiford, from Muddy Ford perhaps, where the village grew up around an ancient ford over the River Lug, a tributary of the Wye. That must have been centuries ago. The river is now crossed by the oldest surviving bridge in Herefordshire, dating back to 1352, here now undergoing much needed restoration. Mordiford Bridge, 2 miles or so east of where the composer Edward Elgar lived in Hereford, a favourite spot to which he would often cycle. Now to my next destination point in the village of Hampton Bishop. And there's Hampton Bishop's rather unusual church with the half-timbered belfry. The distinctive half-timbered belfry on top of the tower, and judging by those small round arched windows, much of the original Norman building remains intact. The church also has a connection with Sir Edward Elgar, who at one time lived just up the road at Plas Gwyn, a large imposing white house on the eastern edge of Hereford. He often cycled to the church to play this very organ. That's where he sat, and foot pedals on which he pressed. That's the last destination point completed. But it's not the destination, it's all about the journey. Just passing a latter-day Elgar. And if you too have enjoyed this journey, spent mostly in the Wye Valley, even if the river was nearly always elusive, please like, subscribe, perhaps even share. I'll then let you know when I'm next out and about. For now, I'm done.